At the beginning of the 19th century, in an old castle not far from a great forest, lived Count Friedrich and Countess Adelheid von Aichenfels. Their happiness was complete until the day when the venerable count had to go off to war, leaving his wife with their only son, Heinrich. For the countess, her only joy and comfort during their separation was her beloved little son. She devoted all her time to his upbringing. But one day, news arrived. The count was gravely wounded and wished to see his wife before he died. She had to set out on her journey immediately. "My dear Heinrich, you have no idea why your mother is crying. Poor child, you may lose your father without ever knowing him. Oh, how it pains me that I cannot take you with me." She entrusted the child to the nurse Margaret. "Do not leave him for a minute, even when he is asleep. Sing him songs, show him flowers, and be a kind angel to my child. Caring for a child is an angelic task. If upon my return you hand my child back to me cheerful and happy, I will reward you generously." Amid the loud weeping of the servants, the countess got into the carriage and, despite the heavy rain and wind, set off on her journey, offering a brief prayer for her son's blessing. Margaret was a poor orphaned village girl. Childishly God-fearing, she had a cheerful disposition and a pleasant appearance. That is precisely why the countess took her as a nanny for her little Heinrich. Margaret carried out exactly everything her mistress ordered her to do. The girl loved the countess and took great joy in caring for the lovely child, seeing in him her future master. One day Margaret was sitting by the cradle knitting. The part of the cradle that rose above the child's head was decorated with roses by the nanny. The rosy cheeks of the sleeping baby, visible through the thin fabric, seemed to her more beautiful than freshly picked roses. At that moment, wandering musicians approached the castle gates and began to play. All the inhabitants gathered to listen to the music. The musicians were invited inside. Margarita loved music more than anything, but she stayed by the cradle, remembering the countess's instructions. Soon the gardener Georg ran into the room. "Gretchen," he exclaimed, "come with us. You can't imagine how much fun it is there." He described the magnificent music, the cymbalum, the triangle, and the shepherd's horn, which makes your ears ring. "Come on, let's go." But Margarita replied that she couldn't leave Heinrich even for a minute. But Georg tried to persuade her. "The child is sleeping. Come for just 15 minutes. Margarita let herself be persuaded and, her heart pounding with anxiety, went downstairs. She couldn't enjoy herself. After a few minutes, she wanted to leave, but the others held her back. At last, the girl broke free and hurried upstairs. But what horror seized her? The cradle was empty. Margarita tried to collect her thoughts, trembling with fear of the countess's anger. She ran from room to room, but the child was nowhere to be found. An all-consuming fear gripped her heart. "The young count is not in his crib. Which one of you took the child?" she cried. The dancing stopped at once, and silence fell. No one knew where the baby was. The entire castle was searched. It turned out that, in addition to the child, valuable items were also missing. Everyone came to one terrible conclusion: the child had been kidnapped. The general merriment was replaced by weeping and sobbing. "Oh, poor countess! What will become of her when she finds out about this?" "This will kill her!" wailed the housekeeper. Realizing what had happened, Margarita wanted to run away. Oh my God! Who could have thought that a little disobedience would lead to such consequences? At that moment, when all the inhabitants of the castle were overcome with grief, Margarita sat in despair by the empty crib. The countess, having hurried home after hearing of her husband's injury, hoped to embrace her dear Heinrich, but in the room she was met only by the pale faces of the servants and the empty cradle, which had so recently been adorned with flowers. This news struck her down. It seemed as if the ground had disappeared from under her feet, and her heart was pierced by 1,000 anxious forebodings. "What agonizing suffering," she wept. "Where are you now, my dear Heinrich? Into whose hands have you fallen?" But in the very depths of her grief, she turned to God. "You alone are the comforter. My child has been torn from my arms, but your hand will not abandon him. I give my child to you. I entrust him to you, even though my heart is bleeding. Your will be done for good." Margarita could not find peace. "Execute me," she pleaded. "If only I could shed my blood for him." The countess forgave her. Now you see how disobedience and a love of merriment can lead to great sorrow. The servants returned empty-handed. There was no trace of the child. Margarita became a shadow, wandering aimlessly through the rooms. and one day she disappeared forever. The old gypsy woman, taking advantage of the commotion, stole the infant from the castle and vanished into the dense forests. For many miles she traveled along secret paths, carrying Heinrich farther and farther from his home. At last, they reached a mountainous area where deep underground lay an abandoned mine, the bandits' lair. Here, the bandits kept their stolen treasures, gold, precious stones, and magnificent garments. The bandits were delighted by the theft. They planned to use the little count as a human shield. The boy grew up knowing neither sun nor moon. His world consisted only of rough stones and the flicker of a lamp. Only the young Wilhelm showed him kindness, bringing the boy toys and telling him stories. His most precious possession was a gold locket with his mother's portrait, which he was sometimes allowed to play with. Wilhelm often wept as he looked at the child and dreamed of returning him to his mother, but he himself was a prisoner in that den. When the boy Heinrich grew a little older, he began to wonder where the men went all the time, but they only replied gruffly that they would take him next time. His only company in the cave was a sullen old woman, who was always mending things or counting money until she fell asleep to the sound of her own snoring. One day, when the old woman had fallen asleep, Heinrich gathered his courage, lit a candle, and set off down the tunnel the bandits used to leave. A heavy iron door blocked his way. Unable to open the bolt, Heinrich, with a heavy heart, turned into one of the side corridors of the labyrinth. The candle was almost burned out when a soft pink glow appeared ahead. The boy bravely walked forward toward the unknown light. And with a single leap, the immeasurably happy Heinrich found himself free for the first time in his life, having escaped from the gloomy dungeon. A beautiful landscape opened up before him, majestic mountains, forests, and pure air he had never even dared to dream of. It was a wonderful summer morning. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in delicate pink hues, and below, in the valley, a bright lake lay still. Where have I ended up? Oh, how beautiful it is here. Everything here is so much more wonderful than in my cave, he exclaimed in utter amazement. Heinrich couldn't take his eyes off the sun, which was turning the clouds to gold. This marvelous light dazzled and delighted him at the same time. And suddenly he saw a living lamb. For Heinrich, it was a miracle, because his toy lambs in the cave had been silent and motionless. A shepherd approached him, a handsome young man with golden hair. Heinrich took him for the master of this enormous cave. Learning about the bandits, the shepherd, full of compassion, took the boy by the hand and hurried to lead him away toward a new, bright life. In the mountains lived an old and highly respected hermit, Father Meinrad. It was to him that the shepherd decided to take the found boy. The hermit's dwelling at the foot of the mountains resembled a corner of paradise. The hut stood in a blooming garden among fruit trees. High above the lake, a chapel soared toward the sky, reached by a staircase carved directly into the rock. The venerable old man sat under an apple tree with a large book lying open before him on the table, which he was reading intently. "Leave the little one with me," he suggested to the young man. "I will be your father and will take care of you, dear Heinrich." And Father Meinrad treated the guests to milk and bread. The young man said goodbye, promising to return soon. And when the young man promised to give the boy a lamb, Heinrich calmed down, already anticipating this extraordinary joy. After the young man left, the old man sat the boy down beside him on the bench to talk. "Dear Heinrich," he began, "do you know nothing at all about your mother and father?" "Oh," the boy exclaimed, "I have a wonderful mother, right here in my pocket. Here, take a look." He took out a small locket in a red Morocco leather case. The brilliance of the diamonds dazzled his eyes. "Who lit that big golden lamp up there, which illuminates everything around? It shines so brightly. How is it made so that it can move so freely and hang in the air? There isn't a single rope to be seen." Meinrad explained that this light is called the sun. It is in constant motion and doesn't need any oil. "I can't understand it," sighed Heinrich. "But what are these beautiful flowers you have? How beautifully the petals are carved. Tell me, did you make all these flowers yourself?" "Oh, then you must have worked on them for a long time." Meinrad told the boy that no human can make flowers. They grow from the earth on their own. The old man showed him a poppy seed pod. In each tiny seed, there are countless large flowers. A single seed is crafted more skillfully than a golden pocket watch. "Yes, that's true," Meinrad agreed. Meinrad then led the boy back under the apple tree to the bench by the table, where there was a pleasant shade. "How big it is and how many thousands of leaves it has." That must be very hard work, the boy reasoned. Father Meinrad prepared lunch and brought apples, honey, and bread. Little Heinrich asked, "Where did you get all these wonderful things?" The old man took an apple, cut it open, and showed him a seed. Inside one such seed, a great tree is contained, and thousands of such trees in the future. From a single grain of wheat, we could produce thousands of loaves like the ones here on the table, Meinrad continued. Everything, from milk and butter to this table, came about thanks to a tiny seed and the life-giving power of the earth. Heinrich was amazed by the stream. Who poured so much water into it? But the old man explained, "This stream flows forever, never diminishing." When it started to rain, Heinrich was delighted. The water dripped so wonderfully, as if it were pouring from a giant watering can. Who lifted it so high? For the boy, the whole world became a fairy tale. Golden beetles, sparkling raindrops, and the songs of evening birds. "Don't worry, my boy," Meinrad reassured him. "While we sleep, the sun will rise from the other side. It moves in a circle, never stopping.